Hi, my name is Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss today's PMQs as Starmer brought up Sunak's failed childcare promises, Flynn questioned Sunak's selective attitude to international law related to continuing atrocities in Gaza, and Tory backbenchers completely failed to dig their leader out of a hole in the usual way. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I'm going to discuss my general feelings on this week's PMQs in a different order, really. There were a couple of minor fireworks, but nothing great. But there was a very interesting failure to control the narrative when you consider all of the questions asked, including from backbenchers. So I usually focus on the questions from Starmer and Flynn, the two most senior leaders of the opposition, and I'm going to get onto those. But I want to begin with actually questions from Tory backbenchers. And that's because, it's standard practice to balance out a viewer's perception of PMQs, because mostly it's like opposition MPs asking the Prime Minister questions that they believe are going to be awkward for the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister wants to get some willing backbenchers on their own side to ask questions so they can show off, balance it all out. For example, a backbencher may ask the PM to praise the work done in their local constituency to complete some project or other that's going to be useful to the community. The backbencher then gets themselves in the local paper for raising the profile of something in their constituency, which is good for them. And the Prime Minister gets to explain how some policy or funding from the government made it all possible. Brilliant. And today of all days, when the focus is once again on party infighting, you'd think Sunak and his team would have wanted to make sure there were some useful questions coming his way so that the Tory media still on his side could plug them in their reports. But there were a couple of questions about local rail issues, which Sunak couldn't answer. There was a question about tackling international corruption, which is a bit of a laugh coming from a Tory, which Sunak couldn't answer. Essentially what was happening is you had the Tory backbenchers asking about, about this thing in their local area, and Sunak was just replying that the minister was looking into it. Not a thing about, I'm glad you asked because I'm happy to report that we've now achieved X, Y or Z thanks to our great plan. Sunak kept responding to Starmer's questions by saying his plan was working, but where's the evidence that any plan is working? What is working? What exactly is working? What can he show voters and say, that's better because of our plan? He wasn't even able to plug his government's achievements when asked questions from his own MPs. It's almost like there aren't any to plug. But could he not have just made something up? He usually does. As for Starmer, he got a reaction from Tory MPs immediately with his first question. He attacked Sunak for collapsing into laughter when a voter asked him to deal with the NHS waiting list. The Tory benches erupted, complaining that this was unfair. Withdraw that remark, sir. Their point is that the recording of the exchange, which I did a video on at the weekend, was initially clipped. It was like a roughly 1 minute, just over 1 minute clip, and it was clipped down to 40 seconds, which made his behaviour after the laughing seem a little bit worse off, which was unfair. But Starmer wasn't talking about that. He was talking about the laughing at a voter suggestion that the government deal with waiting lists, which did happen and still happened in the longer clip. It wasn't mischaracterised in the shorter one at all. So there was no cause for complaint. Being frank, Tories never have cause for complaint when anything's been misrepresented. But I suspect Starmer knew that he was going to get this reaction, because as soon as it happened, he came straight back by saying, the more the Tories slag Sunak off behind his back, the more they seem to cheer him here, which was a clever trap by Labour. It puts forward the suggestion that any public support for Sunak, and there's been lots of it since Simon Clarke had that article published in the Telegraph last night. There's been Tory MP after Tory MP from across the party, all saying this is ridiculous, and yes, we're backing Rishi Sunak for leader and all the rest of it. And Starmer's basically saying, all this support for Sunak's totally fake. It's because they know they'll make things worse if they attack him, but they're all criticising him in private, which is not very far from the truth. But truth or exaggeration, it's very bad for the Tories if the voting public believe it, because then it means it doesn't matter if you publicly support Sunak. They'll just say, well, you're just saying that because you don't want to make it even worse for yourself. And Tory MPs fell right into the trap. Sunak did not look best pleased. And after that, the questions were a little bit more humdrum. They were getting under Sunak's skin because the Prime Minister had to smash the glass on the emergency Jeremy Corbyn defence after just the second question. This has never worked for either Johnson or Sunak, so using it is a sure sign that Sunak is feeling the pressure and has got nothing left to answer with. He also kept trying to push another failing line, that Labour have no plan. The problem is, and I've said this before, as we get close to the election, Labour are talking in more detail about their plans and they'll get more media coverage. And when Sunak finally calls the election, which may be at the end of March, Labour will be publishing a manifesto full of them. Even if we accept that most voters won't read it, the fact that it exists means that Sunak will no longer be able to claim it. Now, I've said before, Sunak is simply not following his own strategist advice here. They seem to be urging him, I don't know what they're discussing, but they seem to be urging him to attack Labour's plans as bad, not claim they don't exist. Because you can't do both. You can't say that Starmer has no plan and his plan is bad. It's what is it? One or the other. And the best one is to say the plan is bad, because the plans do exist. And come the election, people will know they exist. So at that point, you have to stop that line and start a new one. Another case of Sunak, never mind not getting Britain, just doesn't get politics or people. The problem with existing in your own wealthy bubble. Starmer then went on to Sunak's failed childcare scheme. In reality, we always knew it was going to fail. How did we know? Because when it was announced in last year's budget, the childcare sector basically said, look, there's not enough money to fund this. And you know what? We don't have enough staff in the sector anyway. You know, there was simply no plan behind it. And sure enough, now that the scheme is supposed to begin quite soon, a year later, lo and behold, it's been reported that, oh, there's no funding for this and, oh, there's not enough staff for this anyway. Oh, these experts, so annoying with their foresight. In response, Rishi Sunak seemed to take on the appearance of a broken record. You've got no plan. Our plan is working. He just kept repeating it, as if stuck on a loop. Starmer tried to point out, look, we're 8 weeks out from the start of this scheme. Parents can't plan because nobody knows how this is supposed to work. Where's the money? Where's the staff? You've got no plan. My plan's working. It's just what he kept repeating. Again, I'm not sure this is a good line for the Tories. After all, if Sunak is trying to say that if he's saying his plan's working, he's saying that this is what the country looks like when his plan is working. Why on earth would people vote for this? Because he's not talking about, oh, I've put things in place that are going to get better in the future. That's where he was trying to go with his conference speech in October-ish. He was trying to suggest, I've put these things in place and it'll all be marvellous later on. You know, you'll just have to vote for us to see it. I will just vote for you again before we can see it. All right, okay. But now he's saying our plan's working. Not our plan will work. Our plan is working. This is it when the plan's working. Right. Then Stephen Flynn for the SNP asked about Gaza again. He referenced a clip that's been on ITV of what appeared to be an unarmed man carrying a white flag being shot by the IDF. He asked Sunak if this is a war crime. Sunak replied that Israel should follow international law, as he does with these questions, to which Flynn said the MP should respond with the same urgency to this news as the ITV drama about the post office. Now, I think I've made my views about this clear before, but I'll do it again. First of all, no, MPs should not treat the two the same. And the reason I say that is because MPs can do something about the post office scandal. They have the power to make sure that the victims suffer no more needless hurt. They can make sure that the real criminals face rigorous investigations and, where appropriate, prosecutions. They can make changes to make a repeat of these tragedies less likely in future. Basically, MPs have a great deal of agency over the post office scandal. Now, Rishi Sunak could say that Israel appears to be breaking international law. He could be publicly calling Netanyahu all sorts of names and would be entirely justified in doing so. However, it wouldn't save a single life anywhere in the Middle East. Words from the UK government or Parliament have only the power to make things worse. We simply do not have the power to make things better. So it is not true to say that MPs should take the two events as seriously, because they can do something about one and not the other. However, I would just say that it is important that we do not make claims, which the government have made, that Israel is complying with its international obligations when it is clearly not. I had no objection to Sunak's specific answers at PMQs on this matter today, because he was saying Israel should follow international law. He didn't say that they were, unless I missed that. I'm pretty sure. But David Cameron has, as Foreign Secretary representing Sunak's government. I seem to remember quite recently he said he doesn't believe Israel is breaking international law. Now, by all means, keep saying that Israel should break international law, be as ambiguous as you like. That's diplomacy. If pressed, you could say that matters like, whether someone has broken the law or not are matters for the courts, not for politicians to decide. That's fine. But if as a politician you are going to give a verdict on the innocence or guilt on a matter of law, do not give the clearly wrong verdict. That's my view on that one. But there we are anyway. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.